Hey everyone, welcome to this week's Wednesday webinar, or as I'm updating it for 2021, I'm calling it either Netflix PD or PD on demand. I don't know. Right now it's evolving. I'm glad you're here. My name is Stephanie DeMichele. I am a digital learning designer and instructional coach with the Educational Service Center of Northeast Ohio. Those are my certifications. So if you have any questions about any of those things, Flipgrid, Screencastify, Book Creator, Edpuzzle, Quizlet, HyperDocs, or the Ditch Book Philosophy, I'm your person. I'm happy to talk to your team, your school, or even you if you need any guidance in those things. I have been with the ESC since 2016, and I have been an ed tech geek for longer than that. I had my first paperless classroom in 2008. I left, and I kind of moved into curriculum. And then I left the classroom in 2016 and became a coach. And I do miss the kiddos, but I love helping teachers. My favorite thing, my favorite little moniker, someone once told me, a teacher said, "You're the slayer of ed tech fears." And I take that to heart because I want to help in any way I can. And I know that especially during this time, I'm not necessarily in the trenches with you, but I am here to support you. So please take advantage of me in a good way. Let me rephrase that. I'm here if you need me. Just going to take 2 minutes here to talk about distance learning if you are experiencing it right now. I know a lot of us are in upheaval. This is the silver lining. Distance learning gives us it's about flexibility. Like right now, perfect example. I used to make you work on my time. You used to have to show up at 4 o'clock on a Wednesday. Well, what if that didn't work for your schedule? So, that's the beauty of the technology. And especially what we're going to talk about today with playlists is the idea of student agency. We always complain as teachers that students aren't taking control of their learning. Well, we're teachers, we're control freaks. We kind of take control of their learning. Distance learning and the technology that goes with it allows us to put the learning back in the hands of the students where it belongs. It also provides, because of the technology, hey, kids are crowdsourcing outside the classroom without us. So there's ample opportunities for collaboration. And of course, the technology exists to be creative as never before. And so I think those are the good things we need to think about as we're sitting here possibly cursing 2020 as the dumpster fire of the century. That you are literally, you're living in the middle of an educational renaissance, and that if we can look at the positives of these things right now, for example, like I am taking my professional development has transformed because of this. I'm able to reach more teachers than ever before instead of just standing in front of a group of people talking at them. So I think the things that we're learning now, and if we take our best practices from distance learning, and when we're back in the classroom, keep those going, you literally are going to be part of this educational renaissance. Okay, so that's my pep talk and soapbox moment. Let's get to it. Just don't panic. You can just watch today, because everything that we're going to talk about today, links, articles, everything is going to be in a Wakelet board, and that link will be given to you, and I'm not going to delete it, so you will have it for always and ever. I got interested in the playlist model by Dr. Catlin Tucker, who is like the authority on blended learning. In fact, I just did an online book study. I conducted an online book study with teachers with her Blended Learning in Action book. And the idea of a playlist, it's based on the individual station rotation model. So students are working through a sequence of assignments, lessons, videos, things. And that's the beauty of individual station rotation model, is that you can individualize it for certain students, but it gives them control. And it's less work for us with learning and the pathway, and think about how this benefits students. They can work at their own time and pace. Again, when we think about work going home to unequal homes, so not everybody can get on a device at the same time. Not everybody can meet you where you are. So the playlist model is a great fix for online learning. So again, let's get to it. Let's get this party started. I'm going to walk you through the idea of a playlist. By the way, If you ever want to read about Dr. Tucker's playlist, it is here in the Wakelet board. I've got it right here. It's a great blog post from 2018. That's when I first was introduced to it. And I have been modifying my playlists ever since. In fact, I've got a playlist here that I created. I have been creating, and that's on the Wakelet board too. I have been creating templates since March for teachers, free stuff. And I created this playlist model based on a teacher request. So if you have any request, if you need anything, let me know. I do these digital do-overs. So this is a simple playlist in a Google Doc. This has a little bit of an example from Romeo and Juliet, because that was my favorite thing to teach. I was a high school English teacher back in the day, way back in the day, with overheads, projectors, and chalkboards. So this is a playlist model. And on the surface, when you look through it, it's just steps. It's steps through a lesson. So instead of you doing whole class instruction, you're assigning these things in an individual station rotation. And again, think of a playlist like earphones. If you're a Spotify fan or you create playlists with Apple Music, you are working through a sequence of events. So as you can see, there are the steps in the first column. The second column, I started adding visuals for two reasons. One, because we're working with a visual generation. And two, it's perfect to give a visual cue to our emerging readers and our English language learners. And so that's just kind of my thing. I like to put in these little visual cues. We get so text heavy and it can be so cumbersome for students. And then, I always put a little bit of directions in there. The notes column is for students to jot down their thinking as they're going through the steps. And then the date completed is just, again, like record keeping. So that's very simple with these column headings. But when you get into the tasks, the first task is always a screencast of you walking students through the idea of a playlist. Here's what you can expect. Here are the expectations. Here are the due dates. All these types of things. So I like to provide that screencast, and that's crucial as a first step. Catlin Tucker always recommends that you do this. The first step is always a screencast. You talking, to the students, walking through the process, explaining what needs to be done, because you've also replicated yourself and you're not repeating yourself 30 times or answering 30 different emails. It's all right there, pretty self-explanatory. I also like to, and let me zoom in on this just a titch. What I also like to do is, of course, students are always going to have questions as they're working through things. So I like to do a couple things. As students have questions, I like to use Classroom Q, which is, again, the technology. Remember, students might, if they were in class, I know that as an English teacher, when I was doing peer editing with students or collaborating, I'd have them write their name on the board and, I'd look up and see who was next. And that's basically what Classroom Q does, except they do it online. And it's literally the easiest tool out there. And if you just go to Classroom Q and click the About button, there's a great quick video that will walk you through the process of how it works. But it's super easy. And I never recommend anything that you're not going to be up and running with. And, if it takes over 30 minutes to learn, forget it. So also, that's the first part. The very first crucial part you must have of a playlist. That first step is that screencast. Dr. Tucker also recommends, and she calls it Tucker time or stops. And you can put them anywhere you want, but the stop is the teacher check-in. It's where the kiddos are working through, they get to a certain step, and it can be step 3, step 2, step 5, whatever you want. You are the designer of this. You're not the assigner. That's from the Hyperdoc ladies. They said, be a designer, not an assigner. So the teacher check-in is the part where kiddos stop what they're doing and they either get on with you. If you're in the classroom, they're sitting next to you, they meet with you. If you're virtual, you can do open office hours in a Google Meet. You've got Classroom Q. They can post questions. If you're not comfortable with Classroom Q, they can just post their questions to a Padlet. Or one of my favorite things is just a simple question and answer Google Doc. And I say answer because kiddos can put their questions in the Google Doc, but why not crowdsource? So I might not get to it right away, the question to answer it, because we think we have to because we're teachers. We have to answer all the questions. I like to encourage other students in the class to answer questions for students. It gives them ownership, it empowers them, and it's also a time saver for you, and you don't feel so frazzled. All of these steps that are built into the playlist are just basically things you would be doing if you were doing whole class instruction. So take a look at a lesson plan you currently have in your wheelhouse and look at all the whole class instruction, the direct instruction you're doing, and parcel it out. Chunk it into these things so you definitely want to have reading, and I'll make it simple for you. You want to have an offline activity at the very least. And in here, I've given you some ideas for offline activities. You want to have an online activity, anything that they can do collaboratively or individually with their devices. So online quizzes like review games, personalized skill practice, Edpuzzle's collaborative Jamboard. Any of these items are things that they can do online. That's crucial. I always like to add a little bit of play there too. And, again, like I said, the teacher check-in and possibly the peer practice, peer evaluation. That's the collaboration piece. These things can be done online. So, if you want to pause right now and take a look at this before we go any further so you get an idea of it, again, go ahead and pause. I do have in our Wakelet board the same example. It's the Google Doc playlist with example. So you can click on that, and what will happen is it'll ask you to use the template, and then you click that little blue button where it says use template, and then the playlist we were just looking at will automatically populate into your Google Drive, and you can go ahead and take a look at it. And so again, pause whenever you want, rewind. If I talk too fast, I tend to, sorry. But that's, what you can do with this. One other thing, and that you can see here is considering our English language learners, considering students with special needs, considering our emerging readers. There are also two things I like to add to a playlist personally. I like to add audio instructions. Now, in a Google Doc, it's going to look different than when you add audio to a Google slide. You just have the students are taken to an audio file. It's always a good idea to add audio files for your English language learners or your emerging readers. And so the easiest way, so that's just an audio file. I also like to use the Google Translation feature for our English language learners. And this is super easy and amazing. You can type anything in here. Like I said, English language learners might need translation features to help guide them through a playlist. And you can choose any, hello, I don't even know what this language is, but you can put it in there for your students. And Google Translate is a great tool. And you're like, okay, Steph, but how do I do it? At the very bottom of this playlist, I've put some notes in there for teachers where you can read more about a playlist and some videos or links to helpful information as to how to add audio files to a Google Doc and how to use the translation feature. So that's all there for you in this one playlist model that I have created for you. So if you want to, like I said, take a look at that, get comfortable with it, because the next thing we're going to do is do a little make and take. All right, I need to go get some water. Sorry, I forgot to bring water, and I'm like, my voice is going. So I am going to pause this right here, and when we come back, I'm going to walk you through how to make your own Google Doc playlist. Okay, I'm back. Thanks for waiting for me. All right, let's get started. Okay, So the first thing you want to do is open up a Google Doc. I always go from I always start from Google Drive. That's just my thing. You can do it any way you want. It's entirely up to you. I'm going to go ahead and click New Google Doc. And there you go. I've got a quick untitled document. So I want to set up, the first thing I want to do is I want to set up my page. And so when I go to File, Page Setup, okay, I like to change the margins. That's the first thing I do. And the reason I do that is because we no longer need to print. We don't print these things. And those 1-inch margins were designed with the idea of printing in mind. So let's use more of the page. We're not printing. And I also like to change the page color. And I'm going to ask you a huge favor. Try to avoid really bright colors. I like to stay within these 2 rows here with the softer colors for students. It's less jarring to the eyes. And actually, I read somewhere once that green is a very calming color. So I'm going to use green today. And when I hit OK, there you go. I have got my easy page set up. Now, when you look back at the playlist, you can do any heading you want. I just like to have fun. I'm a graphic design geek. So I like to use something called textgiraffe.com. And it creates these headings or what they call logos for you. So all you do is type in, okay, and you can see I've already done it, your playlist or Miss D's playlist or anything you want. And you click go, and then you get this cool, fun, these little fun, creative graphics. And they give you 10 pages and you can get lost in it. And so I'm just going to go super simple today with this one. And when I click on it, you can download it, but why bother? I just right click and the pop-up menu appears and I just hit copy image. I return to my Google Doc. And then what I like to do so that students don't move it around is I double click very closely up here to the top of the page, and that opens up the header. And then that kind of like stays in place in students unless they click into the header. And again, since students can't remember the days when there were headers and typewriters, I just kind of stick it in there. And I just hit Control V or Command V, which is paste. And there it is. And then I tend to resize it just a touch so it doesn't take up too much of the page. And I do that by clicking and dragging on the corners, and then I just center it. And then I click off into the gray area to get out of the header, and there you go. And now we're ready to create. So the first thing you do, and it's entirely up to you if you want to put your image for audio and for translation there, and that's very simple to do. You insert an image. You go over to this little icon, you search the web. Let's see, headphones. I usually do clip art. I like to get very specific. There I go. And we insert that bad boy. And actually I need to move. Sorry about that. Normally I would hit insert, but my little webcam here with me in it is blocking the way. So I'm just going to go ahead and drag that in there. And again, same thing. You can totally resize it. And center it if you want to. All right, and then eventually you would hyperlink your audio file to that, but I'm not going to get into that today because, like I said, you've got a great YouTube video attached to this playlist right there at the bottom. And the person who does this, both of these, they're great. I don't need to, someone has already done a great job of it. You don't need me to repeat it. Okay. So the next thing you want to do is just build your table. And if you look, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 columns. So if I go to Insert and go from the drop-down menu, go to Table, and then just hovering, I'm not clicking and dragging, I'm just hovering over these squares, and you'll see it expands the more I go. But I just need 6 columns. And right now I'm just going to do like 4 rows. That's fine. You can always add more rows. It's very simple. You can either right click when you in that last cell and then put like, insert a row below or above, or honestly, you can just go into the last cell and click tab and a new row will appear, right? Very, very simple. Also, another little quick tip, if you right click, you will get a drop-down menu and you go to table properties. And this brings up a window. So like we did page setup, table properties will allow you to change the border colors. And you can even make it a little thicker if you want. You can change this is where you can change the dimensions of your columns if you wanted to, and choose how you want it to appear. And it's really that simple. So I'm going to go ahead with my headings. And my first head, I don't really have one here. It's just the first 2 are blank because it's just the number and the icon. And so we'll go here with, I can't remember. Okay, sorry, brain fart. Task, directions, notes, and date completed. Okay, how did I screw that up? Did I miscount? I might have. Did I mention I'm super bad at math? Ah, yes, I did. No, I didn't. I just need to move these over. My bad. So actually what I'm going to do is remove this column. I'm going to teach a new trick. I love mistakes. They're opportunities for learning. So I am going to right click in this last column, delete the column. I'm going to right click in this first column and put insert column to the right. There you go. I fixed it. And you can obviously resize these columns. If you hover over the line and you get that little line with the 2 arrows, and if you click and drag, you can go ahead and change these up just a touch. Here's another cool trick. If I wanted these remaining 4 columns to be the same size, but I don't really, I'm going to highlight all of them, right click, and then I go distribute columns, and then it distributes the columns evenly. But as you can see here in our example, tasks, directions, and notes really do take up the most space. So I'm going to click and drag that over there and make the date completed one a little bit smaller, and make directions and notes equal by highlighting those 2 columns. You guessed it, right clicking those 2 columns only and distributing them equally. And then of course, you can certainly go ahead and change your font. And you can certainly change the size because I'm anal retentive. All right. And there you go. So I've created my first table. Now you'll notice here that I did go ahead and highlight each row differently. Again, it's a visual cue. If you just have a list, it can get a little bit difficult for students. All right, so I'm going to show you one of my favorite hacks. Did I mention I'm a graphic designer and I'm anal retentive? I have a Chrome extension called Color Picker. And when I click it and I hover over anything, it will give me the hex code for that color. So yes, Yes, I am that person. I color code everything, but I'm so anal retentive, I have to do it according to my logo. Sorry, it's just who I am. So I've got that hex code and I just copy it and X out of there. And then what I can do is click and drag this whole row. And I go up to my paint bucket for background color and hit the plus sign because I'm adding a new color, and then paste the new hex code and hit OK. And there it is. So again, the tool, it's called Color Pick Eyedropper, and you can get it in the Chrome store and add it as a Chrome extension. All right, so I'm going to do it again with my orange because sorry people, I am a freak. Got the hex code, I copy it by hitting Command C or Control C depending on your device. Change the color by doing the plus sign, pasting in the hex code, and doing it that way. Now, I do not endorse you being as goofy as I am because I am a goof, but I get these questions a lot. And so it's just these simple little tricks that you can do. And again, that's just an easy way to do it. And if you want to take your docs to the next level and make them visually appealing, best way to do it. Okay, so now let's get to the actual content. All right, so the first thing we talked about was the watching of things. So, you put the number in there, and this is where you put that little icon. So it could be usually anything you want. Again, you just go to Insert Image, search the web, maybe look for, and I like to go television icon. I find that if I do icons here in my search, if I add that term, I get smaller pictures that are easier to use. So for example, I've got that one. Now again, I recommend hitting the insert bar, but because I can't see it, because my little camera is there, I'm just going to go ahead and click and drag it right in there. All right. And you can go ahead and resize that if needed, as we've seen with all the images, and go ahead and center it if you want. So there you go. You have a visual cue for your learners as to what their first task is going to be. And again, with littles, you can say, hey, it's the task, go to the picture of the television. And this is where you're going to put in the task. I'm just going to go ahead and copy. They're going to have to watch. And I keep it simple. I keep it one word. That's all I do. And then here's where I put the directions and hyperlinks. So let me go ahead and copy this. And put it into my directions. Right. Hyperlinks. Hyperlinks are super important. It's because you want students to stay sort of here. You don't want to have them say, look up Classroom Q or look up our Meet. You want to make it easy for them. So when you hyperlink something, all right, you're going to highlight what you want to hyperlink, and you'll go up to the link tool, or again, you can right click or use Command or Control K. That's a shortcut. But I can insert the link. This is the beauty of Google Docs and Google Slides, is that you'll notice here, after I've already highlighted the words, it gives me an idea of what's there. So it almost actually does it for me. Here's Classroom Q, sort of. Now look carefully. It's giving me the Twitter account, and it's giving me the commonsense.org review of Classroom Q. So that's not going to be super helpful to me. No worries. Let me go to Classroom Q. Okay. If I hit, by the way, another shortcut. If I hit Command A or Control A, it highlights everything. I'm going to copy it. And I'm going to paste it right in there and then hit apply. And now this is hyperlinked to the Classroom Q. By the way, in Classroom Q, you're going to be given a specific link for your class, not just this generic link, but I did that for, just an example. And that's how you do a hyperlink. Now, again, you can change the font in any way you want. And change the text color of the font so it sticks out. If you have a colored background, you want to definitely have like a white font for it's, again, easier on the eyes for students to see. And guess what? It's that easy. So what I want you to do is think about a lesson you already have. It really, just think about a lesson you already have and say, okay, maybe I do have direct instruction. I do need, so that would be the watch. Or could you put it into an ed puzzle? So instead of you doing the talking, find someone else who's already done the work. That's the beauty of the internet. And then embed the questions into an ed puzzle for students to watch and learn. And then you're also going to get really important feedback. Before you get started creating, I highly recommend that you read this blog post first, because it really does walk you through the pedagogy of a playlist, which is important. I'm sort of walking you through the fun part, which is how to make it. And then I highly recommend next step. You just kind of take a look at mine to get an idea of what kinds of things are expected of students and what kinds of things can be done, and get an idea of what it could look like. And then go ahead, take your own lesson and have fun creating your own. And my best recommendation is that you start small. Playlists can be done in a one period, in a block, through a week, or through a unit. It's entirely up to you. So a playlist could be 3 steps. It could be 20 steps. It just depends on the situation. So again, very malleable, very easy to use. Couple other things, just please make sure. I have a fun thing. A teacher actually she saw it on TikTok and liked my playlist so much that she asked me to make a holiday theme one. And I did, and we might be running a little bit behind, but you might want to use this holiday playlist as we finish up the year. So it's there for you to use. And also on that Wakelet board, you're going to see, and I'm going to add it. I haven't added it yet. I got ahead of myself. There's going to be a Google form here that you'll need to fill out to get your certificate of learning for 1 seat hour from the Educational Service Center of Northeast Ohio. So I'm going to add that to the Wakelet board. So please, after you watch this webinar, or On Demand PD, I've got to rename it, On Demand PD, or PD On Demand, or Netflix PD, or whatever the heck I'm going to call it. Fill out that form for the certificate of learning. If you need anything throughout this time, I'm free, people. I have virtual office hours. We can book a one-on-one appointment. Or, if it's 3:00 in the morning and you need help, shoot me a Flipgrid. So this will take you to my calendar where I'm holding virtual office hours Tuesdays and Thursdays from 3 to 4 to Google Meet. I'm there hanging out, show up. Or if you'd like a little more one-on-one time, you can book an appointment with me. These are free. Or record yourself in Flipgrid talking through your problem. And when I wake up, I will address it. So that's there for you. And let's see what else. This will take you to my website where I mentioned I've been creating all those free templates. These are all free. By the way, when you get super fancy and feel super confident with your playlist and you want to try them out in Google Slides, I've got a template there for you. Go ahead and share with your colleagues. I've got all kinds of good stuff here. And also, I'm still working literally like my boss is ready to strangle me. I'm so behind on getting my PD together for 2021, but I'm thinking of doing doing old things in new ways. So please check that calendar, and we'll be sending out email blasts about my PD as well. But I really do think that's it. I really think you've got this. Let's work smarter, not harder, and let's put the onus of learning on students where it belongs. And if you need me, I'm here. Happy holidays. Thanks for sticking in with me. I appreciate it. Take care, everyone.